Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from the Technodrome, I'll be your radical rat, Dave Drumbore. Joining me as always, my co-host and a party dude, Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, party dude?
Cowabunga, Dave. How are you doing, brah?
I'm doing good. You sound like you've been hitting a little bit of that turtle weed over there. Everything all right?
It's going pretty well.
Going pretty good?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. How about yourself?
Oh, not too bad. I feel like we might need some sort of medical assistance by the end of this show.
Well, we can because surfing down the half pipe is Dr. Jason Woods. Hey, Dr. Jason Woods.
Thanks for having me, guys. Long-time listener, first-time caster.
This is going to be great. We're putting the doc trial by fire here. Now, I just want to be clear. Jason, your background is in turtle medicine. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Can you tell
100% subspecialty, like a decade of training after school.
Can you tell us a little bit about turtle medicine? It's not an area that I'm familiar with.
So really, the thing that I specialize in is identifying turtle gender immediately after birth, which is real difficult.
Interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, a lot of tiny calipers and toothpicks.
Any tips for the listeners out there? Is this something you could do?
No.
Your
You
own
need to
home,
leave
or?
this to the experts.
Oh, so don't. It's not a DIY situation.
No, it's not a DIY situation. You can't Google this.
No, don't Google it either. Listeners out there, don't Google that. Put it down. Put your Google down.
It's a very strange part of the internet.
I feel like we've seen plenty of those, but yeah, this could be a weird one. No, we brought Jason in this week because we're going to be talking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Of course, we needed the experts for this one. Sean and I, we consider ourselves experts in all things cartoons, but we need a little extra expertise on this one. So brought Jason in to talk TMNT.
Thank you. This was one of my favorites from childhood.
And thankfully, Dr. Woods is a longtime friend of ours, so it is a pleasure to have him on the show.
Yeah,
and also a squatter in Sean's house right now, so he sort of had to have me on.
We didn't have a choice. No, Jason, was this your suggestion? Actually, I think it's been on our list for a while, but yeah, this was brought to you by. Yeah,
this was one that I really wanted to do and wanted to be a part of. I feel like this was the cartoon that I owned the most action figures and toys from as a kid.
Nice.
And probably watched the most times on videotapes that were semi-illegally recorded from TV.
Gotcha. Well, it's fine. Nobody listens to this, so they're not going to come after you with any copyright infringement or anything. It'll be fine.
I don't know what the statute limitations is.
I think 30 years is probably pretty good.
I mean, as long as you don't say like any keywords that people would ever search or try to index this, like FBI, CIA, Snowden.
FCC,
yeah,
pirating.
We're fine.
No, but I'm curious though for both of you guys. Before we get into the history of this, was it just the cartoon itself that was your familiarity, or were the comics, or maybe the toys? What was your first kind of introduction, Jason?
So my first introduction was the cartoons. I never was a big comic book guy. I just didn't get into them.
Yeah.
But I watched a lot of cartoons on TV. In fact, the very first Halloween costume that I can ever remember, like demanding that be bought from the store, was one for Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
It was one of those ones that looks like a human-sized plastic bag that's just been painted on the front of it, and it lasted a grand total of the first house. I walked up to it, walked away from it, fell down, split the suit from crotch to chest, and then we had to go home.
Worst Halloween ever. Did your mom have a backup costume?
My dad duct taped it, and then we went back out.
All right.
So
See,
kudos to Dad.
Your cover story could have just been like, "Oh, I'm Raphael who just got out of a fight with Shredder."
Yeah, absolutely.
Just
really
got split from
stem
neck
to stern.
from exactly.
Just eviscerated turtle costume.
I was a little too young. I wish I'd thought about that. I could have just painted that up with blood.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Zombie turtle.
Blood and turtle guts.
Zombie turtle.
That actually would have been closer to the original comics, from what I understand. They were originally like a little more adult, a little more serious, a little darker. But before I get too much into that, Sean's going to walk us through the history of TMNT.
Sure thing. So this was created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird in 1984. The concept arose from a drawing sketched out by Eastman during an evening of brainstorming and bad TV with Laird. The young artist self-published a single-issue comic intending to parody 4 of the most popular comics in the early 1980s, Marvel's comic Daredevil and New Mutants, Dave Sims' Cerebus, and Frank Miller's Ronin. The characters then originated in comic books published by Mirage Studios before expanding into cartoon series film, video games, toys, and other general merchandise. During the peak of the franchise's popularity in the late 1980s and early 90s, it gained worldwide success and fame.
Yeah, and I think honestly, that's what most people are familiar with it from, is this first run of the cartoons, and then more recently, and in the 90s as well, the live action TV or the live action movies.
Those were so good.
Good and bad. I'll leave it there.
I mean,
I will rewatch those over and over again.
I gotta agree with Jay. I gotta agree with Dr.
I'll say the first
Ninja rap.
Anytime you bring Vanilla Ice into the situation.
I mean, I said go Ninja, go Ninja,
go Ninja, go Ninja, go.
You can't say that without somebody else jumping into it immediately. That's how good it is. And that was Secret of the Ooze. That was the second one. That wasn't even the first one.
That was Aziz Ansari who just stepped into the studio for us, telling us about Secret of the Ooze, by the way. That's how good it is.
Come on. That's how good it is.
Turns out that's what every voice in this entire cartoon sounded like. But that was my story.
In some way, yeah.
Yeah, it was surprisingly difficult to tell them apart. I remember as a kid, I thought it was much more disparate than that. I thought you could tell voices. I thought they were a little gruffer. I think I was thinking of the movie though, because the movie definitely had their personalities come through a little stronger.
I was definitely thinking of the live action movies, and when they began talking in the cartoon, my brain was like, "Wait, no, this doesn't make any sense right now. What's going? Oh, I'm thinking of the wrong version of Ninja Turtles."
Well, there's so many though. That's the problem. So to focus everybody in on this one, we are talking about the 80s cartoon series. We'll talk about a couple different episodes from that as well, but I'm going to walk you guys through the synopsis in case you're not familiar with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Often shortened to TMNT or just plain old Ninja Turtles, these characters are 4 fictional, if you can believe it, teenage anthropomorphic turtles named after 4 Renaissance Italian artists. They were trained by their anthropomorphic rat sensei, Splinter, in the art of ninjutsu. From their home in the sewers of New York City, they battle petty criminals, evil overlords, mutated animals, and alien invaders while attempting to remain hidden from society. This synopsis doesn't mention it, but their favorite food is pizza. That's pretty much all you need to know about Ninja Turtles, if you didn't already. That should go without saying.
It's the only part of the story of any of these episodes that will make sense.
Yeah, nothing else makes sense.
Is the pizza?
Yeah, that's how they ground everything.
Yeah, I know.
Through pizza. It's like a national tragedy when they don't have pepperoni in the house. It's an actual thing that happens.
You have to think, though, in terms of food in America that is universally accessible, easy to find and or make, and everybody enjoys it. What is better than pizza?
I'd say meatloaf, but other than that, probably pizza.
Can you get delivery style takeout meatloaf whenever you want?
Yeah, can't you? Is that
no, I cannot.
Is that weird?
I don't think so. I also think meatloaf is a little difficult to chew with a beak, so I think that's the reason they had to go with pizza.
A beak?
But did they have a beak? It just
he's a doctor. He's a turtle doctor. You don't question him. If he says
I'm a turtle doctor.
He's right. He's right. Damn it.
The cartoon did make it look like they were just gumming it, like an 80-year-old at a nursing home.
They were just kind of mush-mouthed turtle monsters. Yeah.
That was actually the first title. It did not make it through
Mush-mouthed turtle monsters?
Teenage Mutant.
Mush-mouthed ninjas.
Didn't quite roll off the tongue. TMNT. Okay, so Woodsy already told us. I'm going to assume that Raphael was your favorite turtle growing up. Is that right?
No. So
hold on. So you dressed as Raphael for Halloween?
Yeah.
We were actually talking about this upstairs.
So by the time that I asked for this, and I desperately wanted it to be Leonardo, the only color left in the store was Raphael. This was a seminal moment in my life, and I remember really maybe this says something about the level of ego that I held even as a small child, but I always viewed myself as Leonardo. The only part that he gets in the theme song, it just says Leonardo leads.
Done. That's all you need to know about Leo.
Take that as you will. As I've gotten older, I definitely like Raphael more. I appreciate his humor. He was the only part of any of these episodes that I found rewarding.
Now, is it because he's rude? He's cool but rude? Is that why?
He is. He's cool but
I
rude.
always thought, now Allison and I, my girlfriend and I got in a conversation. I always thought growing up that Raphael was cool but crude. And she nearly broke up with me because of that, because she was so upset that I thought
rightfully so, Allison.
I know, she was right. She was right. So cool but rude. So Woodsy wants to be the leader, wants to be Leo. Got stuck with Raph costume. That's got to mess up your psyche as a kid there. Not only did you get stuck with the last costume in the store, but it got shredded within moments of trick-or-treating. That's rough, man.
I wish that I had the awareness when it happened to walk back into the house and go, "See, Mom?
Yeah.
I told you I needed Leo."
Yeah, that guilt trip would have been real sweet right then. I bet you get to eat all that candy, though, that night, so that's good.
I did. I got to eat all the candy.
Sean, what about you, buddy? Did you have a favorite growing up?
I did. So I always thought that because of his love of pizza, that I more self-identified with Mikey, but truthfully, I am through and through Raphael.
Interesting. So you guys both identified with a different turtle to begin with, and have gravitated towards Raphael.
Right. I actually I was invited by a friend. His name is Pete Miller, and he invited me to go to a large gala that is for a theater company called Woolly Mammoth that's in the DC area. And because it was a gala and you could go in a masquerade type costume, I went out and actually purchased a red mask, and I found a child's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shell and pair of size, and Melanie Harker, a friend of the show, she sewed and trimmed it down so that it would actually fit somebody who is not between 5 and 9 years of age, so it would fit a 35-year-old man, and I could go to a gala
as intended,
as a Ninja Turtle, as Raphael.
Nicely done. I like that you guys both ended up as Raph in your 30s. I don't know what that says about you.
What about you?
I'm gonna ask you guys, who do you think I am now, and who do you think I gravitated towards as a kid? There's one answer, and there's no question. One.
I think Donatello.
What about you, Sean?
I was gonna say Donatello.
Yeah, you guys know me pretty well. He's the nerdy tech guy of the group, always messing around with machines. The theme song says he actually does machines, which I didn't really like so much. But
I was gonna bring this up because I really feel like they needed like a 13-year-old boy to listen to their theme song, and anytime he giggled, they had to cut.
Just like, nope, that's not gonna work.
Because
I love that in the theme song, though, which we'll talk about in a second. We kind of switched our order around, but I love in the theme song, Donatello is working on this huge machine that they kind of like pan down. And you don't know what it is,
right.
And it ends up being this massive, like, room-sized machine that's just making a little cup of, like, espresso.
Right.
I don't think I laughed at that as a kid, but now watching it as an adult, I find that hilarious.
I truthfully thought when I didn't know, because I didn't really begin drinking coffee until I was in college.
Yeah, I don't think we drank coffee as, like, 5-year-olds.
Right. And so I would not have conceptualized that. And so I thought for the longest time that he was working on like a printing press.
That's what it looks like.
I thought it was like a giant printing press. Yeah. And I really legitimately thought that's what
just thought he was like,
yeah, okay, that makes
just like squeezing out ink into a cup or something.
I don't know. I guess it was because that cutscene in the intro happened so quickly, and the machine just kind of explodes on him. Like, it's not really making a cup of espresso.
No, it's like one drip and then just blows up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just exploding on him, and
yeah,
so
I gotta tell you guys, I still as an adult assumed that it was outputting like liquid cheese for pizza making purposes.
a liquid cheese machine.
Liquid cheese.
Yeah. I love our our analysis.
I'm not proud of this.
Here.
I'm just now realizing that he's making coffee.
Liquid cheese.
But like you know what? To like, I understand where Dave's coming from, because watching the show now, I was like, great, coffee machine, like, you know, like
overcomplicated espresso machine. Yeah.
So yeah, but at no point in the show was anybody ever like, hey bro, want to go to a Starbucks?
True.
Like, that like never happened. They were like, it was cowabunga, let's get some pizza. Oh no, there's the shredder. Krang's doing something crazy. Like, that was it. You know, it wasn't like, hey man, like, we need to refuel and get our Java on. You're like, who the fuck are you?
I think that's why a lot of people didn't like Donatello. He was a little snootier than the rest of them. He was always kind of like off on his own doing machine stuff. I do have a Halloween story though for you as well. It's not quite as sad as Woodsy's. It was basically just like a homemade costume. My mom made it out of like, who even knows at this point. And probably in my head it was a lot cooler than it actually was in reality. I just love the fact that she gave me a broomstick to use as a bow staff. So she basically sent me out into the neighborhood with a fucking weapon, and I think that's badass. Because I'm sure I spun it around and broke something that I wasn't supposed to. Probably like some kid's skull or a bag of candy, one of the two.
I mean, if you break a kid's skull, candy usually comes out.
On Halloween, definitely.
It's like a piñata.
I had forgotten until rewatching this cartoon just how often everybody else in the show screws up, and it's only Donatello and his inventions that sort of fix anything. They're always looking back towards his tech inventions, and that's kind of what saves the day or what gets them where they're going. I'm sort of embarrassed that I wanted to be Leo because he's a terrible leader.
I mean, that's like the curse of all leaders, though. Like, most times people, when they're watching cartoons, like, nobody likes Cyclops because he's the leader. Nobody likes Leo because he's the leader. It's like a burden that's put on them. And I think that he does okay, but there's no sort of sense of actual leadership in the show because it's not the way it's written. He's just like, oh, he's the leader. He leads. All these other guys do all the other cool stuff. So.
Or is he such a good leader that he's managed to delegate out to everybody and play to their strengths?
I like that.
All right, yeah, we'll go with
that
that.
idea.
We'll go with that.
He's leading them without them even knowing it.
Yeah.
Which is what...
That is the mark of a true leader.
I think that's actually what Splinter's doing with
inspire.
Leo. He's just kind of like, this guy doesn't have any skills whatsoever, so... Hey, you're the leader. Good job, Leo.
Where's the easiest place to hide you in this operation?
Out in front.
Right at the top.
How can I instill my values and ideals into this husk of a turtle and have him carry out my will?
Who knew that a tiny little turtle would grow up to be such a worthless mutant creature?
Well, Worthless Mutant Ninja Turtles was
that was the second name,
that
but it was taken. So actually, going back to their origin real quick, it's been a while since I watched it. Jason, I know you had a chance. Sean, did you have a chance to watch like their origin story again?
I did not get into it.
So we'll default to Woodsy for this one.
I sort of remember all of it because as we mentioned earlier about the comic books, I read a ton of Ninja Turtle comic books and actually I have to agree with Jason. I have probably more Ninja Turtle action figures out in my garage right now than maybe Jurassic Park. Maybe Jurassic Park's maybe the second.
Really? Not G.I. Joe or like He-Man?
I have so many Jurassic Park action figures. It's embarrassing.
I didn't know there were them, but okay.
Like I have the compound.
See if we're measuring our toy sticks here.
Let's measure.
I had the Technodrome. And my mom fought my dad tooth and nail one Christmas. She was so pissed when I opened up that box on Christmas morning. She didn't know what it was because he spent like $80 on a Technodrome. This just hunk of plastic with a fucking eye at the top that rolled off. I mean, it was great. I loved it as a kid. But looking back at it now, man, it's like, why on earth would you ever spend that kind of money for this kind of thing? But it was fun. It was fun.
But as a kid, you love those things. Like they're exciting.
It was magical. I mean, it was amazing.
And I remember if we're measuring toy sticks, I had the real Ghostbusters. It was the Firehouse.
Oh yeah. My neighbor had that. We kind of like would different franchises or different shows. He would have badass toys from one thing, and I would have pretty decent toys from another.
Yeah, it was just always fun.
I love that. I love that your point of mentioning that Firehouse was just to say that you had the Ghostbusters Firehouse.
I
also had the Ghostbusters Firehouse.
Oh my God, shut up. So,
Sean, do you want to give us a list of all the other awesome toys you have that have nothing to do with our discussion today?
This is going to turn into just a toy podcast.
I do have a point, assholes. So, the point of this is that those environments, like those specific action figure environments that they had, I always thought were really cool because you could have a couple of the toys and those are always fun. But I mean, having some of the vehicles or having like one of the play sets, those were always kind of what made sort of the interaction with those action figures like really rewarding. So
it was a cool place for your imagination to kind of take root. But go ahead, Woodsy.
Exactly.
For the Turtles, they actually had a sewer replica that had like almost like a silly putty consistency ooze that you could buy.
Oh God, I remember that. I remember that ooze,
almost like
you could buy it in like a tub because it just got
yes,
all over
it was
the place.
huge and like gelatinous, and then almost like the Play-Doh thing, like you loaded it into a cylinder and then pushed a plunger down on top of it, and it would like flow out through the sewer. Messiest thing ever. I think my parents regretted it immediately because I got that shit everywhere.
It was like gag,
I like how
right? It was almost like Nickelodeon gag.
It was. Yeah.
I like how Jason very in a very sneaky fashion brought in that he like dropped that he had that toy as well.
See, he just one-upped us both, but he did it in a classy way.
I know.
I'm
so proud of him.
Speak softly and carry a big toy stick.
Big toy stick. That's the message of the podcast. So once we're done talking about toys here for a second, at least momentarily, Woodsy, tell us about the origin of these turtles, because I can kind of remember it. I remember snippets of like the little turtles crawling around in the ooze, but specifically bring us back to that moment of their creation.
Yeah, so I watched the first 2 episodes of the series, even though we aren't strictly reviewing them today, just to get a sense of what was going on. And I kind of like that the series largely just drops you in. It drops you right into an action scene where the turtles need to save April O'Neil, and they just kind of are there. Okay. And then a couple minutes into the show, she realizes that she's hanging out with mutant turtles and needs to ask where they came from. So that was great. Now, what wasn't great is that the way they explained that was within just like 90 straight seconds of exposition. And then the show moved on. But the way it happened is, Splinter and Shredder and their previous personas were both competing for the leadership of a martial arts academy in Japan. And Splinter had won. Shredder, not liking this, embarrassed him publicly, and I love the way he did this. So they're both like a master sensei came to visit their studio, and they're both kneeling down, and everybody else in the studio sort of bows down as a matter of respect. And Shredder takes out a knife and sticks it in the like top of the gi of Splinter, so he can't bend down, and he gets banished because he didn't like genuflect appropriately.
Wow. No, I didn't remember that at all. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so he gets banished to the United States. He is poor and living in the sewers where his only friends are the rats. And this unfortunate little kid happens to be walking by above him, trips and drops a glass bowl that contains 4 turtles, and they fall down on top of him. And then, like, randomly, they just also happen to crawl through some ooze. And it says that they had turned into the creature that they had most recently been interacting with. So the turtles turned more like human, and Splinter turned more like a rat. And that was how it started.
Sure, I'll buy that. That sounds scientifically plausible.
So let me ask the obvious question. Is that plausible science?
As a turtle expert myself, absolutely.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
So as a turtle expert, we'll have to bring in an ooze expert at some point and see if your opinions add up.
If they match.
If they match up.
And
the ooze expert. I love these cartoon just kind of creations. Just ooze. Ooze sounds good. It's a good creepy name. I love that they turned it into like a marketing product that's just basically yak. No, that was always good stuff. I love the ooze. And then they used it in the movies too. I think they even used it in the more recent ones, but I don't know how well the effect actually was, but good time.
I guess I'd be curious to go back and check and see if the ooze compound itself has ever been further defined within the series, within the...
I think it was. Like, if memory serves correct, there was kind of like... in one episode that we're going to talk about tonight, there's like a gun that's a retro mutagen ray, so it actually reverses the effects of the ooze. But I think they went back into it and then tried to like explain, I'm using air quotes, but tried to explain like the effects of the ooze and how it was created and how it got into the hands of, or how it got onto the turtles and who used it to create other mutant monstrosities that will, be introduced to the series over time. So I think they did actually go back to it. I just don't remember the specifics of it. But according to our turtle doctor, that is very plausible. So just be careful with your pets and your ooze, and don't drop either of those things. Definitely not both of those things down the sewer. I mean,
if you walk away with one thing tonight, do not put your pets and your ooze in the same place at the same time.
You're gonna have bad times.
Big problems.
It's good life advice. The only time that I remember the secret of the ooze being further delineated was in the second of the live action movies. I don't remember any other time where they actually talk about it, and even there, they just sort of say that it was a creation from a scientific laboratory that was supposed to be disposed of.
I love that. So. I love that they just walk over it like, scientific lab creation. Bada bing, bada boom, you got your ooze.
But you have to realize that like when you're in the sewer where they were and hanging out, everything down there is
all ooze. We got to come back to that because there are some real gross things that happen in these cartoons.
Oh God!
These episodes we watched tonight, I was like,
I know exactly what you're talking about, and like my hand washing OCD went off the charts.
I was like, turtles are gross. Remember that, kids. These things are disgusting.
Is April wearing Teflon? She never seems to stain. How is that possible?
That's true. That yellow jumpsuit is Scotch Guard. A lot of Scotch Guard.
Ooh, fair enough.
All right, let's jump back to the theme song here because we glossed over that a little bit. Now, this one, you guys, I mean, if you've seen one cartoon, then you know the Turtles theme song. It's one that you could probably just sing right now. It's one that we've already mentioned kind of offhand because they give the very basic attributes of each of the turtles here. We know that Leonardo leads. We know that Donatello does machines. We know that Raphael is cool but rude. And from Sean's introduction, we know that Michelangelo is a party dude. Is there anything else we can kind of glean from this theme song there, Sean?
I really think that this theme song, after having taken a hiatus from my ears for roughly 20 years, the second it came back on, I immediately remembered the entire theme song without any problem. I think that before listening to it, I could have probably recited it close to flawlessly without having listened to it.
Yeah, it's taken up it's definite hard drive space in our brains for sure, and it always will.
I mean, this theme song is definitely iconic. It does a great job of kind of setting the tone and introducing those characters and letting you know what a portion of their personality quirks are going to be that they're going to play with on the show. And it introduces some of the bad guys, and I think it sets up everything up. I think that it sets everything up very well and kind of brings you into the show. And it's just so entertaining and fun. Like, I hate to say it, but there's rarely like a show that I'm just like, yeah. Even pre-show, Dave is just sitting around just doing like the dun, 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 dun,
and now it's in your head.
And like it is immediately you pick up on it. It's such an earworm. I love it.
No, it's great.
We watched this episode together here, Sean and I, and the moment that the theme song starts playing, Sean starts bouncing up and down in his chair like a little kid that just can't control himself.
Did he have a bowl of cereal in his hands at the time?
No, he should have.
Both of you should have.
So let me ask this, because I know that we're talking about theme songs, and so do you have fond memories of watching this show and the theme song coming on a Saturday morning or on a weekday afternoon?
I'm really trying to remember now, and my memory is probably going to be compared to the internet and found wrong, so I really don't know which one it was. It was probably both. I feel like I definitely watched, if not the first run, then reruns in the mornings, and then definitely on like afternoon.
Okay, because I have an extremely distinct memory of getting off the school bus one day, and I was in 4th grade, and I went over to, like after school in the neighborhood that we were in, there was one mother who kind of watched, like 4 or 5 families, children, as their parents were coming home, and Mrs. Rankin kind of had all of us there, and we all knew that Ninja Turtles was coming on for the first time, and we all got excited. And this was like a party for us as like 8-year-olds. We were like, this is coming on right now. We are now getting a chance to watch this, and we'd never seen anything like this before, But they had during that like after school cartoon block, they had promos saying, tomorrow Ninja Turtles is coming on, check it out, kids. And we got really pumped about it. And so I remember watching at least within the first couple episodes and being like, I can't believe I'm watching this. This is phenomenal.
See, that's interesting, because one of the reasons we picked this series to talk about, not only because Jason was going to be our guest, but because it's going to kick off a month of CBS Kids TV Saturday morning block. So TMNT was actually part of the CBS Saturday morning programming for a time, but they rotated shows out. So depending on how old you are, depending on what you were watching at the time, you may have missed it on Saturday morning cartoons. So I honestly can't remember. Jason, do you know if you watch it Saturday mornings, reruns in the afternoons, whatever it was?
I'm sitting here trying to remember, and I feel like it was Saturday mornings, but I have no idea.
I mean, I remember watching it weekday afternoons, but then I also remember watching it then like shortly after on Saturday morning. So I mean, I watched it definitely on both.
Yeah, I think this thing was all over the place because it was so popular, and they had already had all the shows produced at that point. They just ran it not into the ground. They actually ran it pretty well for a very long time and many different iterations.
Right.
This first run of the cartoons had a lot more seasons than I remembered. Like, I feel like most of the cartoons from our childhood ran for 2 or 3 seasons, and then they just did reruns for years. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the original run of this cartoon series was 10 seasons.
It was definitely on for a long time. And I don't know if they were all like, if it was the 26 episode seasons or what they were, but let's look it up here.
Because we're so used to older cartoons where they would do like that 65 episodes so that they could hit that syndication mark, but they would do one season, 65 episodes. Like, this is insane.
So the original run is listed as being on from 1987 to 1996.
Yeah, that's what I have too.
Not all of those were, so 194 total episodes. But like the first season was only 5 episodes, so they chopped those up a little bit. But that ran a lot longer than I would have expected based on how short the other TV series.
It's actually kind of funny that the first season was only 5 episodes, because that explains why the episode that we watched tonight, they were only getting to certain plot points for the first time. Like, you were only meeting certain characters for the first time. I'm like, you've had the whole season to get through this, but it was only 5 episodes long, so that explains it. Before we jump into that episode, as far as characters go, we hit the main guys. Are there any villains that you guys would like to talk about, whether we watch them on the episodes tonight, or just any that kind of jump out at you from your childhood?
I have very clear memories. I never owned the Shredder action figure for some reason.
Dude, I think I had multiples of him because I just randomly had extra.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I had Bebop and Rocksteady. And so most of my memories are because those were the toys I had, so they were always the bad guys in any game that we played, like just make believe. And so so for a long time, as an adult dream, I have wanted to have a pair of dogs at the same time and name them Bebop and Rocksteady.
Make it happen. Adopt a shelter dog near you.
I was happy that they are introduced very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I literally have one of those action figures in the closet that you can see behind me, who's missing a forearm. So it's a little disturbing. He looks like he's really been through the ringer. But I just want to put like a hook on the end of his arm. Just turn him into some badass creature. But yeah. Sean, do you have any specific villains? Yeah, that you remember?
I very distinctly remember Baxter Stockman.
Yeah, definitely.
It's sort of the fly with all the mousers, those small robotic, like, they didn't really look like mice. They just sort of looked like little cannibal robots that just had mouths on them. That and there was another villain that was named Leatherhead. That was the anthropomorphic alligator.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had that action figure
had that
as well.
too,
So clearly my parents never would buy me Shredder, but
right
all of the secondary ones.
Yeah. So I remember those two villains kind of in addition to the guys that we've talked about now. But I will say that on some of my my most recent travels, when I was abroad, I was walking with, again, Melanie Harker, and we were walking through the streets of Reykjavik, Iceland, and she points up at the top of a stop sign that had like the cap that was on the stop sign had been pulled off, and nestled inside was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figure. And she's like, "Are you seeing this?" I'm like, "What the fuck is going?" You know what? I like Iceland. Pretty cool place.
Pretty chill place.
Yeah.
Man, I'm trying to remember now. I mean, I had a ton of those villain figures. I'm trying to remember if I can associate them with the cartoons at all. I feel like there was like one guy that was like a walking trash pile or something weird like that.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know. They're all getting mixed up in my memory now. I'm not 100% sure. But I will say one that it's like one of the main villains in the entire series, and one that we'll actually get to talk about tonight, is the evil warlord from Dimension X, Krang.
Yes.
When that thing came on TV for the first time, that blew my little kid mind, because I was just like, what the hell is this thing? What is this voice? What is happening? It didn't make sense.
Shredder!
So it was so disturbing. It was just like a little pink brain with tentacles coming out of it and fangs. It was one of the scariest things I ever saw as a kid. And it wasn't, I don't know if it was intended to be or not, but it was creepy as hell. Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Oh, yeah.
And when he starts, he's wheeling around on what looks like a camera tripod, like pushing himself around on his like little brain arms.
Thing, right?
Yeah.
And he's always just like being plopped disgustingly into like different machines that he pilots around. And I love that in the episode that we're going to talk about tonight, he just yells at Shredder for not having his new body ready. And he just This body, this is one of the toys that I had, was that plastic bodysuit thing for Krang. Like, its arms didn't move. I think they like rotated, but that was it. His little stomach thing opened up, that little clear plastic window. It's just such a bizarre looking creation. I can't believe they ever made a toy out of it.
Watching this now, I don't understand why they decided to make Krang's bodysuit look like Sloth from the Goonies with an adult diaper and hospital booties on.
And he's got like a little.
He's so creepy.
It's one of the weirdest designs ever, and I think the new movie actually did a pretty decent job at trying to make that somewhat believable and not just complete shit. But yeah, watching that in the cartoon again just definitely made me laugh. Brought back some good chuckles. Do you guys want to get into these episodes here?
Yeah, let's get into them.
So the first one we have is the season 1 finale. It's the 5th episode, as Jason mentioned. It's called Shredder and Splintered. And it is titled such because, as Jason mentioned earlier, with the origin of this whole story, this finale kind of comes to Splinter and Shredder kind of come to blows. They have a pretty. It was pitched to me as an epic fight. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it that after having watched it. But we can talk about it. We can talk about it.
I may have oversold the quality of the fight on this one, Dave.
It was early stages. It was season 1. So.
But does it bother anybody else that it was named Shredder and Splintered and not Shredder and Splinter or Shredded and Splintered? Like, why was it mixed up?
No, as you could tell from me flubbing the title at the introduction to this episode, it still bothers me probably for the rest of my life now. I don't know why. I don't know why they chose to like mix their tenses here, but it was pretty irritating. But basically the whole premise of this one is that Shredder and his foot soldiers have been wreaking havoc kind of in the city. The Turtles have been going out to put a stop to it, but they're also trying to stay kind of in the shadows. They haven't come out to the city yet and revealed themselves as the heroes that they are, and because they're also really kind of creepy and terrifying for the lay person. So the news report is all over the fact that these crazy events are happening in the city. There's like weird tornadoes, and there's a lot of crime, and there's a lot of destruction, and there's also sightings of these 4 weird turtle things. So in the midst of all that, Shredder kind of comes on TV and broadcasts somehow like directly towards the Turtles and basically says, you know, it's time for me and Splinter to have our final match to see who's really the best of the best. And he also happens to have this device that will turn Splinter back into a human. And that, I'm assuming throughout this first season, that is something the Turtles and Splinter himself had probably wanted to achieve. Yeah, Sean.
So I want to be clear. We have disasters that are going. We have disasters that are occurring all around the city. We have this rogue band of purple sock-headed foot soldiers that are running around causing terror. We have a weird silver cheese grater samurai guy running around, and we have a brain. We just have a brain, and that lives inside of a giant circle with an eye on top of it underneath the ground, and we're fucking concerned about 4 turtles? Like, that's where we drew the line? We're just like, oh, no, it's a brain, but we've got brains. But turtles have brains, but they're not like human brains. It looks like a big brain. Like, that's the line that we drew in the sand? Come on, New York City. You guys are fucking better than this.
They just don't trust them. They don't trust those no good turtles. There were some fantastic lines when they were like interviewing the people on the random person on the street. There's like some old lady who's just like, I don't trust them rotten turtles. They're disgusting, and I don't trust them. Send them back where they came from.
And then they cut to a woman from like the Jersey Shore and her boyfriend that's got like an imploded face. Yeah. And they're like, turtles, I love them.
I'm gonna be a turtle when I grow up.
Exactly.
That was real bad. But along the way, like they're ready to come out and say like, look, we're the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They call themselves that a number of times. We're here. We're defending the city. We want to help. And April is like pretty much the only person on their side. So hot ass reporter April is like, I love these turtles, and we're gonna do reports, and we're gonna reveal them as the good guys that they are. So it's kind of a couple different things going on at this point. Overall, what did you guys think of this particular episode? I actually thought it was fairly stronger than I thought it would be coming back to it like 20, 30 years later.
So I enjoyed it a lot. I thought they wrapped up some of the things that got started, at the beginning of this short little 5-episode run. there's more random things in it that make no sense than what my little kid brain remembered.
Oh my God.
People in this show just seem to know everything that's going on, no matter what. Like Shredder and Krang have a camera that can see anywhere, anything. And then like the turtles are fighting in one part of the city and we'll know that things are going to hell in another part of the city. And there's no explanation for how they have this knowledge.
No, I love it though, because there's the one thing I didn't like about this show, I'll say that before I get into the stuff I did like. The music and the effects were like insulting to my intelligence. It was like watching an old it was like watching a Looney Tunes cartoon. It was like there were so many like boinks and bongs and these weird sound effects and this kind of like goofy synth carnival music that was like, if they would have chosen a different music for this particular episode, it actually could have had a little bit of like dramatic tension to it. And yeah, there's jokes and yeah, it's a funny cartoon and it's meant for a younger audience, but they're basically trying to prevent these super bad guys from opening a portal to a dimension where there's a giant army waiting to come in and wipe the world out. It's not exactly the like light, easy, fun popcorn stuff. Yeah, Jason.
And I actually really appreciated the plot device of the thing that can turn them back into, can like reverse the mutation. Cool. The retro mutagen device, I think is what they call it.
Which is just a straight up gun pointed at their head.
It's the thing that can save Splinter, can turn him back into a human, but it's also the thing that can destroy the turtles and turn them back into turtles. So I thought that tension could have been really interesting if the rest of the show wasn't made no sense.
They had a really cool conceit for the episode overall, where it's basically like Shredder is saying, you know, come and basically to Splinter, come and get me. If you can best me in battle, you can have this device back that'll turn you back into a human. But it's also at the same time very obviously a trap for the turtles. So all of them actually go off in search of to go to the Technodrome to find Shredder and to get this device so that you can turn Splinter back into a human. But there's a problem. There's actually something that breaks the turtles up, which that again is a plot device. It was a little weird, a little silly. But I thought it was interesting because once you break this team up, they don't quite function as well as they normally do. So this is where, to Woods' point earlier in the episode, he said that Donatello is pretty much the one that saves them all the time, and he more or less does in this one. Now, I know you watched a few more episodes. Did you happen to see the neutrinos at all? Did they show up?
So what I think they were, because they mentioned them in this, they left like a car.
Yeah, like a hover car.
So I did not, they weren't in the episodes that I see, but if I remember correctly, that like extra technology came from Dimension X. Like it was introduced along with where Krang was brought in.
Yeah, I think so. They definitely mentioned the neutrinos.
That good old home dimension.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they were from Dimension X. I remember they came in. I didn't remember much about them, but they had like this hover car, which is a weird thing to introduce only 5 episodes in, and you've already introduced floating brains, bodysuits, Shredder ninjas, Foot Clan, Technodrome, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Well, they introduce General Trag, who is the granite stone soldier who's like in command of General X. They never mention him they never really kind of refer to him or get into his name, but I remember this character very distinctly. Like he comes up in other episodes and he comes up in the comic books.
No, I didn't remember him at all. He looked like a faceless, nameless goon.
Yeah. Because they were all like that entire like series of like rock soldiers that Krang controls in Dimension X are almost all like identical, and you know they're only ever identified by the one who speaks, and that was pretty much the entire point of it. But it's just they throw so much at you in that, and I had to say I have to go with both of you on this. Like I enjoyed this episode. Like there were a lot of really good things that were in this episode. Was it a little anticlimactic for the end of a 5-part miniseries? Yeah. Were there like a couple major flubs that were in this? Yeah. Was it still really fun? Yeah. I mean, you can see that like that there was, I guess, the seed of a really enjoyable show that was about to kind of blossom.
No, it's definitely a great start, and this was a pretty decent end for that introduction too. I really think they could have made it so much better just with a different choice of music. Like something that simple could have been great. Now there was definitely humor to be found too. I don't want to make it sound like it was this super dark thing that was just tried to be lightened up with the music. I want to talk about some of these gross out scenes. So one of them starts with Woodsy's friends Bebop and Rocksteady, and they're actually pretty formidable early on. They seem to be a lot stronger than the turtles, at least one-on-one. They have some crazy weaponry with them that kind of keeps the turtles pinned down. And then the turtles resort to some kind of, it's not as gross as the next thing we'll talk about, but they resort to some sort of like gross environmental usage to take out Bebop and Rocksteady. So do you guys remember this fight? Anything stick out from the fight for you?
It's like the Turtles version of a Three Stooges cartoon. Like they dump them in a dumpster first,
trash.
And then and then tip the like dump truck that it's sitting in over, and for some reason just sitting in the trash stuns them. Like I don't know if it was the disgustingness of the smell or the realization that they're sitting in trash that's been in a dump truck forever. Like I'm not sure quite why, but they're almost like sitting still with birds flying around their head.
Yeah, it was an odd
because
choice.
You would think they don't really seem to be too up on the hygiene front.
True.
And so you would think that the trash would be right in their wheelhouse regarding olfactory.
You would think. And then you, correct me if I'm wrong, as a doctor, you normally park your garbage truck right next to your cement mixer. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're going to have one, you have to
They got to be right next to each other and ready to go at a moment.
For just such an occasion. But also you need to have cement that is somehow just as easy to shake off of you as the trash from the dumpster, because having cement poured on them does nothing to them, but the trash really bothered these guys.
Well, it all depends what kind of cement it is. It could have been quick dry. I mean, it could have been instant dry. I mean, we don't really know. That's the problem. You know, if we had a little bit more information, maybe it is really easy. Look, I'm gonna throw this out there. When was the last time that you guys poured cement on yourself? And can you tell me how easily?
Sean, you said there'd be no personal questions in this episode.
Okay, well, just one. I think we can go with.
I've never poured cement.
I've never poured.
I've only ever poured cartoon cement on myself, and it was pretty easy to get out of. So.
Was it?
Yeah,
makes sense.
Since the consistency looks the exact same as cartoon trash and cartoon sewage.
Right. Cartoon sewage. So that's the next gross out.
That brings us into our next one.
Next gross out. There's some cool fights that kind of happen in the meantime, but for the big stuff, the big gross out stuff, this is the Turtles versus the Foot Soldiers. Who?
So I'm gonna.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna politely agree to disagree with you on whether or not this was an interesting fight scene, because Turtles arrive at the Technodrome and nobody's around.
True.
Like nobody.
There's no security.
Nobody's out there. And you think to yourself, are Bebop and Rocksteady really like the only security system that they have for this massive underground layer that they have that's just rolling around? No, it's not. They have Foot Soldier Bikers that they mention and call out by name.
I didn't get, because
Foot Soldier Bikers
did anyone see a
the
bike?
Foot Soldiers are walking with
did
tanks,
see a bike
but they call them Foot Soldier Bikers.
There was
there's
no bike,
motorcycle,
Dave.
there's no tricycle, there's no unicycle, nothing.
No.
Foot Soldier Bikers.
There's nothing.
They're literally hanging. The Turtles, the three of them that are there, everybody except Don. Don's off looking for plutonium and making weapons and just putting shit together for some reason that is not explained.
Yeah.
But the rest of the Turtles are hanging from the side of the Technodrome that they use a ever-present grappling hook to get into.
which can we just discuss? Where on their body do you think that grappling hook is stored, right? Because those turtles are naked,
I assumed,
right?
Dr. Turtles, that it was
the only clothing they have on.
It's a storage compartment in their shell. Is that not correct?
The shell doesn't work that way.
I assumed.
The only place that they would have to hide that is some orifices, which was my gross out.
If I take a turtle in the world and I peel its shell back, you're telling me they don't have all kinds of cool stuff hidden in there?
No. You wish they would.
Interesting.
Wait, so you're telling me...
I mean, if I had been designing these things...
So you're telling me, as a human being that has a grapple hook stored in an orifice, that I should have been putting it in a turtle?
As long as it's collapsible.
Yeah, absolutely. Just go pick up your friendly neighborhood turtle and tell him he's got to carry the grappling hook for you.
Damn it.
I've been.
You guys aren't sponsored by PETA, are you?
I've been using neighborhood turtles as a portable storage device for years, so it's worked pretty well for me.
Have you just been storing turtles or putting storage in turtles?
No, I've been storing other turtles inside larger turtles.
So it's like a rushing nesting
doll
of turtles.
It's completely useless, but it keeps the turtle population down. Yeah, okay, so Foot Soldier Bikers, where there's no bikes to be found. Doesn't make sense, but it's fine.
Right. But they have tanks.
I think they had tank.
I think
they had tank.
They had tank, singular. And as the turtles are climbing into the Technodrome, the tank shoots them and hits the
Making
Technodrome.
a bigger hole next to the smaller hole.
Making another fucking hole!
In order to keep them out of
the
the
You guys are the worst henchmen!
It was pretty bad. But my favorite was probably the part where they just decide to drop down to the ground anyway, engage them in hand-to-hand combat, until they get overwhelmed and decide to just wash them all away in a tide of raw sewage.
Gross out moment number 2.
And they have close-ups of the raw sewage
chunky,
hitting 2 of the foot soldiers right in the face.
And it's like real chunky and brown. It's real gross stuff, ladies and gentlemen. But hey, it gets the job done.
Just imagine the volume of raw sewage that you need to wash away a tank.
It was a lot. And these turtles have probably just like ruined. Look, when the Technodrome either crawled or drilled or smashed its way into this area beneath the city, they had a blessing that they did not smash those sewage lines open sooner, right? They were intact, they were all together, and the sewage was flowing like it normally does, no problem. Until these fucking turtles come in and decide that's how they're going to wipe out this half dozen foot soldiers with a massive tide of raw sewage that is going to ruin the city's infrastructure for weeks, if not months to come.
It's very well known that Shredder and Krang were environmentally conscious with the placement of their Technodrome, and they did not like to leak sewage.
No, they were responsible villains from another dimension. But the turtles, not so much. They're just straight up jerks. So now we've got a couple other battles going on, right? So at this point, Splinter has sort of like found his own way into the Technodrome without the use of grappling hooks or tank blasting or raw sewage, and he is now engaging Shredder in a pretty decent fight. I'm gonna throw this back to Woodsy because I think you enjoyed this fight, but I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so this was actually one of the ways I built this episode too, because I was like, it's the first time you get to see Shredder and Splinter fight. Now the fight's a little bit unrealistic because there's like 5'2" rat man wielding a stick he picked up off the ground,
which is perfectly normal.
Fighting Shredder, who, in addition to wielding the blades that are on him, pulls out like a scimitar, and somehow Splinter's magic stick breaks this sword in half. So they essentially have what amounts to a sword fight between a stick and a scimitar. All the while, Splinter is giving him his martial arts maxims of things like soft will always turn aside hard.
The gentle way always.
And telling him that and telling him that he's lost his way and that he'll never win because he's not following Splinter's teachings anymore. All the while he's fending himself off with a twig.
Yeah. Hey, it's working pretty well for him. I mean, I can't knock him there. I was actually surprised that Splinter never looked like he was in any danger. Shredder was just kind of having his ass handed to him at every stage of this. So for me, it didn't really seem like there was a whole lot of tension going on. It was just, I loved watching Splinter try to sneak in and just like a sneaky little rat, just try to take that mutagen gun away from him.
that anti
retro mutagen something.
The retro mutagen.
Right. The retro mutagen ray that is on a podium with a light on top of it in the middle of a room, rotating around.
What a great display, though. Look, you cannot knock Shredder for not having a good setup. The guy knows how to light his guns.
Did either of you remember Shredder being this technologically competent?
No, not at all.
He starts the fight with several holograms of himself.
Pretty good. He was like Ganondorf in there.
And then the way that Shredder finishes it, because it's clear he's getting beat by Splinter. He gets called away by Krang, who we'll get to, and then he pulls out some device that creates like an electric cage just out of thin air that surrounds Splinter. I did not remember Shredder having this.
I'm assuming
this
all that tech comes from Krang and from Dimension X and from all the stuff in the Technodrome, and then Shredder, being just like a good villain, just uses that to his advantage. Yeah.
So I see where Jason is going with this, because there is that moment where Krang is being put into his new body.
Oh,
and he's
yeah, you're right.
Shredder. He's like, Shredder, is my new body Shredder? Is my new body ready? And he's just like, yes, it's ready now.
You're totally right.
And then at that point, he's like, put in this chip in the shoulder. And he's like, well, let me just pop open this USB socket that's in the fucking...
The 1987 multi-port for
it's like a
for
scuzzy.
villains.
It's just ridiculous. And so, like, there's a part of me that was led to believe that Shredder created the body that Krang is in, and then Frankensteined it to life.
And like 100% Frankensteined it too, to the point that he was even like, "It's alive, alive!"
Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so, like, some of those moments are campy, yes, but I mean, I don't know, sort of like the very subtle nods to other literary and movie references that were in there. As watching them as an adult now, I'm just kind of like, I see where the humor is. Like, I think I would have enjoyed this. I didn't get it when I was a kid, but I'm enjoying it. No,
definitely to Woodsy's point, though. I mean, yeah, apparently Shredder has like a degree in biotechnology and cybernetics and terrible bodysuit construction. So we can blame Shredder for that design.
That's why the Japanese schools are so much better than American schools, because in addition to learning to be a ninja, you can learn how to build a supervillain's new body.
Which, actually, this thing is pretty sweet, all right? So Krang, by himself, pretty worthless. Basically just a little brain, can't really do much by himself. But if you put him in this bodysuit that can, grow to like 100 times its normal size and swap out hands for hooks and blades and all kinds of crazy stuff, that's not too bad. That's actually pretty good.
Did anybody else see at one point that thanks to his molecular amplification chip,
important.
His hands turned into meat cleavers
and
at
like
one
pruning
point
shears.
He's using to fight off the turtles with meat
now,
cleavers.
Here's what I don't get, right? So three of the turtles are going up against Krang. Krang's got this massive bodysuit, and basically he's just trying to squash the turtles so he can finish powering up this portal, so he can bring his warriors in from Dimension X and take over Earth. Why the fuck would he, when he has the turtles not outnumbered, but basically outmaneuvered and outgunned, why would he then... Did he fly? Did he just grow tall enough that he could climb out of the hole? He just left them behind and he took the battle up to the streets above. It made zero sense to me.
So this was really confusing to me, because they are underground and he has got them cornered, and then all of a sudden they're on the surface.
He just grew and then just climbed out of the hole, and then they used their, again, ever-present grappling hook and just climbed up there after. Zero sense. Zero sense.
And then they get up there, and just as quickly as they've arrived on the surface, Krang is like, Shredder, let's go! And he gets on the robot sloth body that Krang has, and his wings. Now, mind you, he's been using his hands as little tiny meat cleavers. Not like big, oversized meat cleavers. Little tiny meat cleavers. He turns not just his hands now, but his entire arms of this body into wings of a plane, and then they fly back down into this,
Well, that's how they escaped. But before they did all that, Donatello actually finally comes up and makes his sort of Deus Ex Machina rescue of the three turtles. So Donatello, I thought he was just over here in Baxter's lab working on fixing the hover car. No. He just decided that from scratch, he's just going to make a brand new vehicle for the turtles to fly around in.
He makes the turtle blimp.
Which is fantastic, but like, Jesus, maybe you should have like told somebody that's what you were doing, because they've been getting their asses handed to them. They're covered in raw sewage and garbage, and you just been tinkering around all day making a blimp, of all things. Now I love it though, because it was kind of like this. It was almost like a King Kong kind of battle where they have this blimp, and then it turns into a glider, and I think it was Raph and Mikey who were trying to like figure out how to pilot the glider, right? While Leo and Don actually crawl inside the giant bodysuit and disable it from inside. I thought that was really cool. They had like neat layers and levels and stages of this this kind of dramatic conclusion that eventually ends with Krang's bodysuit shrinking back down to size, and then like Sean said, they fly back into the Technodrome. But there's more. Go ahead, Woodsy.
Something that I really appreciated on this. So I will believe essentially any rules that a new fantasy or sci-fi world puts out, but like once they lay them out, I'd like them to follow them. So I appreciated that they had a nod to something that like would have been a real world problem. So Krang's body grew really big. They get inside of it, they destroy this this chip, and then it's shrinking. And they didn't just sort of like shrink with it or get outside. They actually have to escape before the body shrinks back to normal size, and they're like killed in the process. So like, I appreciated that nod to, all right, we've already accepted that there's mutant turtles and there's brains with tripods for bodies, and Shredder can learn how to be a ninja and a biotechnologist at the same time. But like, physics still works here, and we're going to discuss it.
Yeah, I liked it. And it was just those things in this particular episode that there were a lot of really cool moments. Like I said, the action isn't even done yet because they can still actually open this portal. So Don still has one little trick left to play, which I thought was pretty cool. Pretty cool way to kind of end this whole thing, and adds an extra wrinkle to the end. John, what was your take with how Don kind of flipped the script on the bad guys at the end?
It really, so at the very end, the turtles go back down into the Technodrome. They kind of sneak attack Shredder and Krang. And in this moment, it cuts to the scene of Donatello opening up a control panel, and swapping out a bunch of different controls and motherboards. And it really looks like he's just doing stuff to do stuff.
He's just fucking around.
He's like, I hope this works. And then at the very end, they're just like, suddenly he's like, oh, well, I reversed the teleportation portal that they had created to suck the Technodrome into Dimension X. Yeah. And so now they're stuck in Dimension X, and you're just like, how did you learn? You know what? You created a blimp in about 3 minutes. You know what? I'll give it to you.
No, it was cool because when the portal was open, you started to see the army kind of marching through already, and you're like, oh shit, how are they going to do this? And then the whole thing literally just like folds in on itself. And I love the fact that you even get a scene in Dimension X where Krang is super excited and Shredder is so pissed. Go ahead, Woodsy.
This is my favorite line from the entire show because Krang is telling Shredder that well, you know, it's not so bad because now they get to conquer this dimension. And Shredder goes, but I don't want to conquer this dimension.
And then so he had a second line. Oh, he was so whiny at this point. He was so whiny. Well, I don't want to conquer this place. I want to conquer Earth. So whiny.
And then Krang something. It was something about like, I don't take orders from you. And Krang just goes, we shall see. And then it just cuts away from them, kind of like getting ready for like 1940s style boxing for no reason, just kind of like a put up your Duke style. Like, I'm gonna say this after having watched this episode as my foray back into something that is very nostalgic in my heart. I feel like I know as much martial arts as Shredder after watching him do battle, and I've never taken a single fucking martial arts class. Like, this guy is a bad ninja.
Maybe he was just such a bad ninja that he decided to like brush up on his science bodysuit building skills, and that explains it.
Is that like a ninja track?
I guess it was.
It's a minor.
Smoke bombs, stealth,
construction,
bodysuit
alien
construction.
Warlords from Dimension X. It's very specific.
Very specialized. Very
specialized. It worked out. His career path is doing well for him.
And who can really say that they're doing the thing that they got their degree in?
Shredder. Fair enough. I know we're getting a little short on time, but we did watch another episode specifically for one character who we have not talked about at great length yet. Woodsy.
Stephen Amell?
Yeah, Stephen Amell showed up. I vastly prefer the cartoon version to Stephen Amell. Vastly.
Yeah, so I, in looking through the episode list, this is the first appearance of Casey Jones, who I remember being one of my favorite characters. I do not remember him being this much of a psychopath.
He's a literal
He is
psychopath.
A scary, mentally disconnected man.
And he's terrifying.
Who talks like Adam West.
So strong. And like Dirty Harry. And like a weird combination of the two. And this doesn't come until the 23rd episode of the 3rd season. That's crazy that it took this long to see Casey Jones. It's even crazier when you realize how fucking crazy he actually is.
And they discuss nothing about any sort of origin story or why he just all of a sudden waltzes in and decides he's going to clean up the city from you lawbreakers.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. He is a cross between Dirty Harry and Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th movie franchise, and the BTK killer.
He's like,
I mean, he is as mentally unstable as all three of these fuckers put together.
If you had a psychopath, like a literal textbook, I guess, definition psychopath, who also was a serial killer, but then decided that in his own mind wanted to be a vigilante for quote unquote his brand of justice, that would be Casey Jones. This guy is so unhinged that he even he'll attack the turtles, but then he thinks they're Martians, but then he just goes on and attacks them anyway. And then the turtles are just like,
he is equally as angry at robbers as he is at homeless people sleeping on park benches.
Homeless people just dead asleep in the middle of a park.
And he puts him in a full Nelson.
He's about to snap that guy in half. We're talking Casey Jones lifted and shoulder pressed a full refrigerator full of food over his head on a roof, and then proceeded to smash an entire department store full of appliances with a baseball bat. This man is not sane.
Don't you know there's no loitering in this park?
He's not sane.
Machines have to follow the law, too.
He had so many good lines. I didn't even write most of them down. Let's see.
I wrote
They're so punny.
Here's all the dough you'll get, lawbreaker.
That one is from so he's stopping the robbery of a bakery.
Oh, that was so good. I love these criminals, dude. These criminals that all have a sweet tooth. The guy that fucking jacked somebody up in an alley to ask if he has any bubble gum in his pocket.
The dude asks for a prune pastry.
Prune Danish. He asks for a prune Danish.
And then the thing that doesn't make any sense to me is the way Casey Jones stops him is by further vandalizing the place that is being robbed. He just spills out all of the next day's dough and then smashes a cake in his face,
which is pretty great, all things considered.
He is using the problem as the solution.
So I think that was best.
That was
Casey
best
Jones. Exemplified so we had one guy who was looking for bubblegum, we had another guy who was looking for a prune Danish. Weird. These criminals are weird to begin with. But then we have a couple guys who break into this sports, like a gym or a sports store. And then Casey Jones just proceeds to basically beat them to a bloody pulp and destroy the entire place while whipping out quips like, you could use a little iron in your diet, when he drops some weights on them. Or consider this a slam dunk, scuzzball. I mean,
he throws a human being butt first. There's a really weird butt shot that occurs in this moment. He throws a dude butt first through the bucket, through a basketball hoop, and the guy is just stuck there. Any human being who gets stuck like that probably could just put their hands down and then just kind of forcibly push.
Or you've had your spine just snapped in half, are asphyxiating yourself at this point.
I think I would just stay up there. I don't want to go back down there with that man.
He's an actual crazy person. They do make at one point, I think Raph says, this guy's seen too many Filthy Harry movies, which is funny because I guess they couldn't say Dirty Harry, but Filthy Harry?
They didn't.
Filthy Harry?
He's the lesser known, worse off cousin of Dirty Harry.
Well, let's get into filth and disgusting and things that I would consider problems, because let's talk about the Ninja Turtles when they are dressed in their coats and their hats and their gloves,
fake noses?
and the fact that they cannot get their color coordination down.
I thought they did. I thought they had it. I thought they had their color coordination.
The only
time I noticed it was when Don took his purple hat and gloves off. I was like, oh, okay, they're all color coordinated. I guess I was wrong.
This aggravated me as much as Voltron aggravated me, and Beast Can Go Lion, and this was something that as Jason and I are watching it, we're sitting there screaming at the television. Michelangelo had matching hats, undershirt, and mittens. None of the other Ninja Turtles, the other three, we're talking Leonardo, Donatello, and Raphael, it was the undershirt. The undershirt that they had were completely different.
In fact, Leonardo is wearing a shirt the color of Donatello's hat, and I don't understand.
Quality control.
I don't get
Quality
it.
control, just not up to snuff. I didn't notice it.
So this occurs while they're trying to go out and look for pepperoni, because this is their big emergency. There's no pepperoni, so they got to dress like idiots to go to the surface at 5 a.m. to find it. And Casey Jones discovers them and thinks they're going to go.
Why does he discover them? Because apparently he hangs out at in the rafters of a sewer system in the middle of the night, like a sane person.
Because and if you need to escape from somebody who has bested you in a fight in the sewer, it would be in your best interest to punch a hole in the wall in order to run away. The fuck are you doing?
Badass, though.
That was so cool.
Badass.
I was like, "What? How is he gonna
punch a
is
hole
he just
in
gonna
a solid brick wall?"
This only occurs after what I think is more disgusting than any of the moments of the first one, where his technique for fighting this battle is to pick up sewer filth and throw it in the turtles' faces.
Mikey or somebody had a line.
Somebody had a line. That's the game we're playing? Well, this is my game.
I'm gonna sling
Mudslinger. Mud. Yeah. You're not slinging mud there, Chief. That's excrement. That is human.
Yeah, that's shit. That's shit right there. That's straight up shit.
A real quick aside for April O'Neil and her nightgown.
Let's get it. You beat me to it. I'm so happy that we're going there. We're on the same page.
Hey, if you got to wake up at 5 a.m, you can still be fashionable.
Yeah, why not?
Her color-coordinated nightgown. That is the same color as her jumpsuit.
She has a Sharon Stone style, like, crotch swing across the front of the camera shot, too, which a little racy for a children's
Ladies and gentlemen
show.
at home, if you're playing along, if you go back and slow that down frame by frame, you won't see anything because it's a children's cartoon. But no, it was pretty good to like call her at 5 a.m. and just be like, "Oh, I'm April O'Neil in my nightgown." Yeah. Moving on. I don't think her and Casey Jones, did they get together in the cartoon ever?
I don't
know.
So.
They certainly don't in this episode.
Nobody should, because both of them, like, April's fine, but Casey's like completely batshit. Speaking of batshit, so the plot in this story, which we haven't even talked about yet, it's like,
because it's insane.
I will say, by the time we got to this episode, the whatever seriousness and dramatic tone was in the first one has been left far, far, far behind. This is very silly. It's very slapstick. There are multiple times, at least I probably lost count at 5, if not a half dozen, multiple times where there's literal fourth wall breaking. The turtles are talking
that's right.
to you, or they're talking to each other, like characters talking to each other across scenes, which I really didn't like. It was very much like a comedic thing.
Yeah.
Like when April's being assaulted by like all these machines that have gone rogue because Krang has these weird little bugs, literal bugs, that find their way into machines and then they can control them for Krang. So April's being attacked. She's like, "Where the hell are the turtles and why aren't they doing anything about this?" There's a literal split screen that happens. Raph is like hanging off of something and he's like, "We're doing the best we can," or some sort of like weird quip like that. And it's just these weird bizarro moments of fourth wall breaking, characters talking to each other across time and space, just very cartoonish. And I just wasn't as impressed with this one as the earlier one. Yeah.
There is a moment where Bebop and Rocksteady jump off of the back of a subway train car, land near the tracks, and look directly at the screen and say, "Kids, don't do this at home. We're trained professionals." And then just walk off screen. And you're like, what did that set? Like, what did that scene serve?
I get that as
in
like
terms
a
of
PSA,
doing this?
because maybe they didn't want actual kids doing this actual thing, but it was just like really bizarre. If they would have done that once in the episode, I would have forgiven it. But the fact that they kept coming back to it, it was just like, nah.
Yeah.
And then they, I mean, that's crazy enough, but that's just like a bad writing kind of thing. And then there are things like whatever Krang wanted to build this time around. Now, I'm not familiar with the normal size knucklehead, but apparently it's like this giant...
The giant knucklehead.
Like super knucklehead, which is like a giant... Picture a tank, but that's a spider. So if you're thinking of Wild Wild West, you're kind of correct. But then at the ends of each of those spider legs, put a boxing glove on them for some reason.
Yeah, like an old-timey cartoony boxing glove. That sometimes is a boxing glove, but sometimes has
fingers.
Yes.
Has fingers.
It's very, very bizarre.
And then, just to make matters worse, put a squishy little brain creature in the cockpit of this thing and let him pilot it with his weird, creepy-ass tentacles. That's... I mean, if this all sounds completely insane to you, then welcome to this show, because it's... A lot of shit is happening and none of it makes sense.
Can I wanted to point out one. So at this point, we've mentioned these little bugs that are getting into anything that has electronics in it, and it's taking them over. And then these machines are revolting.
Oh, things like what, John?
Like a VCR
or a fucking toaster,
or Or a toaster.
Like a boombox, a toaster with exploding bread in it.
So
right.
much.
Thank you. So at one point, when Jason and I are watching this, there is a scene where there is a VCR that is on top of a table that has legs, and the legs at the very end have casters, so little wheels. So it's moving around, and so it is attacking one of the turtles, and it is spitting out multiple VHS tapes. I'm like, hey, you can only ever get one VHS tape inside of a VCR at a time. Let's understand how the 80s and the early 90s worked. All right. Followed by the fact that it is controlling the VCR. And this is where I drew the line in whether I could believe this or not. I was like, that table doesn't have any electronics on it. Neither do those wheels. How the fuck is that table moving? The table has no working parts in it. There are refrigerators that are walking like people. And I'm like, yeah, I'm on board.
I can follow that.
But it's a table with casters that's rolling and walking around. I'm just like, I don't fucking buy it.
I draw the line.
Also somehow managed to make the boombox.
I love
levitate.
That.
Like it's a flying boombox,
which they in the first episode call a ghetto blaster, I believe, at one point.
Yes.
It was amazing. So bad, but amazing.
So these bugs. These bugs have taken over everything, and they have this scene where Shredder is asking what happens if they're discovered, and Krang says
built into them.
Don't worry, if they're discovered, they immediately come for home, which makes no sense because that clearly gives away where you are. Sure. So the turtles finally find one of these things after Casey Jones saves them and immediately look at it and go, oh, Shredder is using these to control all the machinery in the city. Like picking up a tiny bug is that obvious.
He's like, we only got 22 minutes of this episode, so let's just get right to it. They do make a mention like, well, I wonder who is involved with this one. Probably our old friends. Yeah.
Speaking of short of time, as well as also we've mentioned lazy writing. At some point in this episode, when they finally do when the turtles confront Shredder and are just like, give us that controller that controls those bugs, and he's like, no. They throw a slice of pie in his face. And that's what
it was randomly sitting around in his lair.
Well-drawn, high-definition slice of cherry pie. You could count the individual cherries in this thing. They paid so much fucking attention to this piece of pie, a la mode, I might add, because there was a dollop of either ice cream or whipped cream on it. It's so frustrating.
So the turtles have discovered these little bugs, and they go confront Shredder because they followed the bugs back to him. They steal his remote control, and again, Donnie, saving the day, is like, no, I got this. I clearly know how to reprogram all of this technology.
Meanwhile, Casey Jones...
They're gonna come to the remote control.
Meanwhile, Casey Jones has been kind of apprehended by this knucklehead machine because he went after it with a fucking hammer. Like a barbarian, and it just like grabbed his arms and pinned him to the side, and they were like, okay, you just settle down, crazy pants. So that's where he is right now.
So the turtles go free him and then shout that they need a hole in the side of the machine. Meanwhile, he is standing next to a gun port on the side of the machine. There's already a hole there. And what he manages to crack the side of this with looks exactly the same as the croquet mallet that the guy was trying to steal at the beginning of the episode. So this knucklehead machine, all powerful, shooting lasers with hands that can turn into boxing gloves, but its armor is so weak he can break it with a croquet mallet. Serious design flaws.
There's so many things wrong with this episode, but Casey Jones, I have to say, Casey Jones was the biggest surprise. I did not expect him to be such a loose cannon, such an insane mental patient. And the fact that the turtles at one point were like, oh, you saved us, why don't you come with us now? And they kind of lead him away like an actual like mental patient, like they're going to go get him some help. But no, they just throw him back into the heat of battle. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Well, because, I did not expect Casey Jones to be wearing a pair of what looked like hobo pants, a one shoulder pad from like a 1970s professional football player, and a Delia's crop top. Like, I don't understand what fashion sense he has.
I don't know, but he's rocking the cut off sleeve look, man. Pretty sweet. He's got some guns.
So on the childhood costumes Casey Jones thing after watching this as a kid. So what he's carrying all of his various like sports related weapons in is a like tiny golf bag, but not like what you would carry all of your golf clubs in. It was like a little range bag where you might carry 3 or 4. So I managed to find one of these at a garage sale when I was in maybe 5th grade, and then variously stole from my father like golf clubs and a wooden baseball bat to keep in this thing. And my intention as a kid was that this was my home security. Like, this is what was going to happen. Should anybody ever walk in, was like little 4-foot tall, scrawny Jason was going to walk up holding a baseball bat saying, "Lawbreaker."
Can I give you my favorite Casey Jones? I would have paid to see that, actually. You need to make that one of your Halloween costumes.
I love that.
But one of my favorite lines from Casey Jones. So a lot of things piss him off, right? Thugs in the alleyway holding up people for their bubble gum. Dudes breaking in trying to steal sporting equipment. Homeless people trying to sleep on a bench in the middle of the night. The thing that pisses him off the worst? Trademark infringement. How low can you get? They basically try to make him think that Shredder has ripped off his mask, and that's what pisses him off, so he goes after this thing. It's the stupidest. I mean, I get it as like an in-joke from the writers with the Friday the 13th reference and the Dirty Harry stuff, and yes, very funny. You're very clever. I hope you're proud of yourselves, but come on, man. I want to say that I hope Casey Jones got better later on. I actually really like, what was it, Elias Koteas in the live action movie? Yeah.
Yes.
He was good
great.
from what I remember. Stephen Amell. But that is Casey Jones, Mighty Casey at the bat. Anything else from this last episode before we wrap it up?
No, I think we're good.
Jason, anything else from you there, buddy, since this was your suggestion in both these episodes tonight?
Yeah, so what I really appreciated about this was that it reminded me a lot of my childhood, and brought back so many fantastic memories. The first episode we watched was great as an adult. Like, there was some dramatic tension and as many plot holes as there were, I thoroughly enjoyed it. By the 3rd season, it had you said this, it had gotten very slapsticky, and I don't think I could sit through very many
out
of
of 10
those.
seasons.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where that transition occurred. But I'd be interested to go back and read the original comics if they're more on the darker side, kind of like the first couple episodes were. I think I would really enjoy that. So
would you recommend this to listeners out there who have not happened to see this classic cartoon?
The first 5 episodes, sort of mini arc, absolutely. After that, it's a little questionable.
Sean, what about you, bud? You recommend this one?
I feel the same way. I would definitely recommend this 5-part miniseries. If you have a favorite villain, I would pinpoint those episodes to go and track and try to figure out where those are located within. I want to see if, like, the end of the 10th season, if it just sort of becomes Ninja Turtles versus Ren and Stimpy type of slapstick, kind of like John Craig Falusi, like weird insanity. I could see that working well with the whole Casey Jones stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember enough of it to like tell you what happened in which seasons, but for me at least, I'd like to go back and check it out. If you've never seen the original series, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, definitely go back and watch the first 5 episodes like these guys said, and then kind of you can pick and choose as you go. You can head on IMDb, look for the higher rated episodes, or like Sean mentioned, look for your favorite villains or favorite moments. Do stuff like find the first appearance of Casey Jones or the first appearance of Baxter Stockman or things like that. But I have a feeling that nostalgia is not going to quite hold up on this one. So buyer beware. I'd like to thank Jason Woods for being our guest, first ever guest for Mr. Jason Woods here tonight on the podcast. Thank you so much for your suggestion, bud.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been hoping to be on this since the start.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back again sometime soon. But in the meantime, would you like the listeners out there to know who you are, what you're up to, where they can find you, where they can send hate mail, anything else?
So I'm a private citizen. You will not find me performing anywhere unless I do a return to this podcast. But I am shortly moving to Denver. So I guess if you want to look me up there and come skiing, you're welcome.
There you go. You hear that, Denver, Colorado? Give them a warm welcome. We'd appreciate it. Sean?
As a special turtle gender identification doctor.
They've had a shortage of that in Denver, as I've heard on the news lately. So I'm glad
Absolutely.
You're helping them out.
A lot of sea turtles
Jason
in Colorado.
actually works for Turtle Doctors Without Borders, so we really do appreciate his sacrifice. Sean, buddy, do you have anything coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, sure. I am going to be performing just about every Saturday night during the month of July for Washington Improv Theater with my improv troupe Nox. That's NOX ! You can find out more about showtimes and tickets at witdc.org. I am also in the middle of planning a comedy festival that is going to be in DC that will be November 9th through the 13th. You can find out more information about that at districtimprov.org. And as always, you can find me on Instagram and the Twitter at Sean Paul Ellis.
Fantastic. We are going to have all of Sean's information and none of Jason's up on our website. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at DrClawMD. You can also find me over at Collider.com, where I do movie and TV news and reviews. You can check me out on Nerdist as well, where I'm a freelance writer for their science section. And if you're interested, you can check out some of my short fiction work over at DaveTrumbore.com. As for Saturday morning cartoons, if you want to find out more about us, you can head on over to our website. Remember, that's morning with a U. On Twitter, we are at MorningTunes. We've got our Tumblr page going strong, thanks to Sean's handiwork. You guys have been fantastic over at our Facebook pages and our YouTube account, so keep that up. Keep the likes coming, keep the comments coming. We love talking to you guys and hearing from you. So thanks for all the Voltron love the last month as well. So we're hoping the Turtles hits that sweet spot for you as well. Each and every week, you can download our free audio podcast through iTunes and Stitcher. And if you'd like to suggest a cartoon for a future episode, you can send us an email, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. Now, Sean, buddy, you know what's coming up in the next couple of weeks as we continue our CBS Saturday Morning Cartoon Kids Block.
Oh, man. We have some very fond memories of some of these things.
And
that
there's
are coming
some
up.
weird stuff coming up. It's very...
I was about to show. I was about to say, I do not have fond memories of this show that we're about to watch, which is Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Boy.
What have we done?
I don't know. CBS, you got some weird stuff on your docket there.
Yeah.
Weird stuff. It's strange. So we've got Ace Ventura coming up. I don't remember that cartoon a lot. And then we've got Tales from the Crypt Keeper after that. And then a very special guest with a very special series near and dear to his heart. We're going to have Evan Valentine back to talk Wildcats. Wildcat! It's going to be an interesting month here. We'll see how it goes. Anything else from you guys real quick before we wrap it up tonight?
Oh, I do want to say really quick, if we do have a new social media presence. If you are interested in keeping up with us on Instagram, we are at Saturday Morning Cartoons on Instagram. You can find us. It is me, usually taking pictures of the cartoons that we've watched and then putting over top modern day memes because I'm bored at work sometimes.
Fantastic. I'm an old man. I don't know anything about that. So you kids out there, check us out on Instagram. Until then, thank you for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. We will see you next time.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons.